technician at Harley Davidson of Smithers, and this is a video about preparing a motorcycle for the upcoming riding season. Hopefully you had one of these smart chargers plugged into your bike all winter long. These are great. Basically it's you plug this in and forget about it. As soon as your bike drops below, your battery drops below a certain level, it'll bring it back up and it won't overcharge it, so you can leave it plugged in. I've seen batteries last up to 10 years, and that's because of these. So it's totally worth the money. I highly recommend you get one if you don't have one. Okay, so if you haven't had your battery plugged into a trickle charger, and you go to turn your bike over and it's not starting, what we recommend you do is you actually pull your battery out, and you can either bring it to us, hook it up to a charger, or bring it to us and we can charge it and test it for you. It's not a good idea to boost a battery if you can avoid it, because depending on how dead your battery is, that can put a strain on your charging system, which is not a great idea. So, if you have to boost it, you have to boost it. But if you can avoid it, bring it into us and we'll be happy to charge it up for you. No problem. Okay. Our oil levels. The first thing we want to do is what's called a cold oil level check. Basically, we want to just make sure there's oil on that dipstick somewhere between the add and the full mark. It doesn't matter where. It's just a cold oil. We want to make sure there's some in there. Depending on the bike, most of them are on the side stand, but you definitely want to look at your owner's manual, and that'll tell you whether to check it straight up and down, like V-rods are straight up and down. Most big twins, I believe, are on the side stand. The newer ones anyways are all on the side stand. So now, the reason we have a Softail here is to show you guys certain bikes like Softails or Sportsters have an oil tank that sits above the bottom end. So what can happen is over time, stored over the winter, your oil will sump, so it all leaks down past the check valve into your bottom end. So when you go to do your cold oil check, there's not any oil in there. So what you want to do if you find no oil in there, you don't want to add oil to it, because then you're going to be overfull. What you want to do is fire the bike up and look down the spout, and you should be able to watch the oil levels rise, and then so you know there's oil in there. So that's the cold oil check. So now that we know there's oil in there, you want to go ahead, fire your bike up, let it idle for 4 or 5 minutes, and then you can do a hot oil check. And that's where you want to make sure it's in between the add and the full mark. And as long as it's in between there, you're good to go. Check is tire pressure and tire condition. So we have this Harley Davidson. We sell this handy little tire pressure gauge. It's really good for getting in. If you're getting in behind a saddlebag or whatever, you can get in there with this. So I really like this. So your tire pressure, you can find the spec for that in your owner's manual, or it's also written on the frame here. It's a little hard to read, but it is there. 36 psi in the front and 40 in the rear. You always want to check your tire pressure cold. As soon as you go riding, it's gonna friction from the road and the rubber is gonna heat up the tire, and it'll throw your reading off. So always check that in the morning. It's a good idea to check your tire pressure at least once a week. It's a huge part of the tire, like your wear. If you have low tire pressure, you're going to go through tires faster. That's just a fact. You're going to wear them faster, and tires aren't cheap. So it's definitely a good idea. Buy one of these, or any tire pressure gauge. They all do the same thing. And just stay on top of that, not just in the spring, but year round. That's going to save you a lot of money. The next thing is your tread depth. So another really cool thing about this tire pressure gauge is it has this little tread depth thing here, and it even shows you it goes green to yellow to red. So as soon as you're in the red, which is 1/32, basically you go up to your tread and you push this in there, and you see what your reading is. If you're in the green, you're golden. If you're in the yellow, you're starting to get there, and if you're red, it's time to change your tire. You don't want to be riding around on a bald tire. Bald isn't cool for me. So, it's just, you only have 2 wheels on a motorcycle, so you need them both. That's pretty important. It's good, you got to stay on top of tires for sure. So, and the last thing is about tires is you want to check your side walls here and make sure there's no cracks. If your tire's starting to get up there in age, you haven't ridden for a couple of years maybe, you definitely want to look at that and make sure there's no cracks in the sidewall. If there's any cracks in the sidewall, it's time to change your tires. So definitely pay attention to that. What you want to check before you're ready to ride on down the road is make sure all your controls work, everything feels good. So you want to make sure your brake feels good, your front brake, and check your rear brake. You want to check your clutch, make sure the cable feels good, nice and smooth. It's not binding or sticking or anything like that. You also want to, it's a good idea to check all your lights. So you want to check your brakes, again, front and rear. Make sure it's lighting up. Check your signals. I know some people don't like to use those, but it's a good idea. And check your lights, make sure you're high beam, low beam. You want to check your horn, that's a good one. Everything's good. The last thing you want to do is just check hop on your bike and just check the feel. You want to make sure your steering is smooth from stop to stop. If you've been servicing it regularly on schedule, everything should be fine. But it's a good idea to make sure it is before you hop on it. He's on down the road. To get you on the road, feel free to leave a comment, hit that like button, or give us a call if you have any questions, or stop in anytime. And I'll see you guys on the road.